The news that Queen Zaralyn had found her daughter safe and well cared for spread through the Valthara fleet like wildfire. On every ship, warriors and officers gathered around communication screens to hear the impossible story. The primitive humans had not only saved the royal children, but had treated them with a level of care and respect that even advanced civilizations rarely showed. General Kethvar stood on the bridge of his command ship, studying the tactical displays. His red patterns flickered with confusion as he tried to understand what had happened. For 3 years, he had prepared for war against the species that had taken the royal children. He had expected to find evidence of imprisonment, torture, or experimentation. Instead, he was looking at reports that described something completely different. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving video transmissions from the research station. The Queen has authorized us to see her daughters." The main screen filled with images of the 7 princesses. They were healthy, happy, and clearly comfortable with their human companions. More shocking still, they were speaking in the human language and showing obvious affection for their alien caregivers. "This changes everything," Kethvar muttered to himself. On Research Station New Horizon, Queen Zaralyn was making the most important decision of her reign. She sat in the station's conference room with her daughters, Captain Martinez and his senior staff. The conversation had been going on for hours as they discussed what would happen next. "I want to go home and see our world again," Dawn said thoughtfully. "But I also want to come back here. This is home too now. The humans are our friends," added Moonbeam. "We can't just leave them and never see them again." Starlight looked between her mother and Katie Brooks with worried eyes. "Do I have to choose between my Valthara family and my human family?" Queen Zaralyn's patterns showed the deep blue of careful thought. She had ruled an empire for over 2 centuries, but she had never faced a decision quite like this one. Her daughters wanted to maintain connections to both their birth species and their adoptive human family. "Captain Martinez," she said formally, "I need to ask you something important. If my daughters choose to spend time here as well as with their own people, would your crew be willing to continue caring for them?" Ryan didn't hesitate. "Your Majesty, as far as we're concerned, your daughters will always be part of our family. They're welcome here any time for as long as they want to stay. And if our peoples become allies, would humans be interested in learning from our technology while teaching us about your culture?" Dr. Chris Taylor leaned forward excitedly. "Your Majesty, the scientific exchange possibilities would be incredible. Your daughters have already taught us so much about biocrystalline technology and harmonic healing methods. And we've learned about human medical techniques and social structures," Crystal added. "Both our peoples could benefit from sharing knowledge." Queen Zaralyn stood and walked to the observation window, looking out at the stars. Behind her, she could hear her daughters continuing to plan excitedly with their human friends. The sound of their mixed languages and shared laughter was something she had never expected to hear. "I have a proposal," she announced, turning back to the group. "Captain Martinez, I would like to offer you and your crew honorary membership in the Valthara royal household. You would have the status of adopted family members with all the rights and protections that entails." The humans looked stunned. Katie stammered, "Your Majesty, we don't know what to say." "Say yes," Starlight urged. "Then we can really be one big family. Furthermore," the Queen continued, "I propose that we establish a joint human Valthara research station, a place where our peoples can work together, learn from each other, and build a friendship that benefits both civilizations." Dr. Bell stood up slowly. "Your Majesty, are you offering to share Valthara technology with humanity?" "I'm offering to share it with humans who have proven they can be trusted with great responsibility," the Queen corrected. "You could have exploited my daughter's knowledge and technology. Instead, you used everything you learned to better care for them. That level of moral integrity is rare in the galaxy." The discussions continued for several more hours as they worked out the details. The 7 princesses would spend half their time with the Valthara Empire and half with their human family. A new space station would be built at the edge of human territory, staffed by both species and serving as a center for cultural and scientific exchange. Most importantly, Captain Martinez and his crew would become the first humans to receive Valthara citizenship and protection. If anyone ever threatened Earth, they would be threatening members of the royal family. 3 months later, Queen Zaralyn stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the construction of the new joint station. Human and Valthara workers labored side by side, building something that had never existed before, a symbol of partnership between species that had chosen cooperation over conquest. "My queen," reported Admiral Veltar. "The human delegation has arrived for the formal alliance ceremony." On the observation deck, the 7 princesses were gathered with their human family members. Starlight was teaching Katie a traditional Valthara song. Moonbeam was showing Derek how to use a translation device that would let him tell stories to Valthara children. Crystal was working with Dr. Bell to establish medical protocols that combined the best of both species' healing techniques. "Your daughters seem happy," commented General Kethvar, who had become one of the strongest supporters of the human alliance after seeing how well the princesses had been treated. "They are," the queen replied. "They've learned something that I think will make them better rulers someday. They've learned that strength isn't just about power or technology. Sometimes real strength means choosing to protect others even when it costs you something." The formal ceremony was unlike anything in the history of either species. Captain Martinez, Dr. Bell, Katie Brooks, Derek Powell, and the rest of the New Horizon crew were formally adopted into the Valthara royal family. They received crystalline medallions that would identify them as protected persons throughout the Empire. In return, the 7 princesses were given honorary human citizenship and permanent homes on Earth whenever they wanted to visit. But the real celebration happened that evening in the new station's recreation area. Humans and Valthara shared food, music, and stories. Children from both species played together while their parents discussed plans for joint exploration missions and cultural exchanges. Queen Zara Lynn watched her youngest daughter, Starlight, sitting between Katie Brooks and Dr. Bell, chattering happily in both languages as she drew pictures of her 2 homeworlds. The sight filled the queen's heart with a warmth she had never expected to feel. "Your Majesty," Captain Martinez said, approaching with a data pad, "we've received applications from over 1,000 humans who want to work on the joint station project. And I have received similar applications from Valthara citizens," the Queen replied. "It seems both our peoples are excited about this partnership." Ryan smiled. "Your daughters taught us that family isn't just about blood or species. It's about caring for each other." Queen Zara Lynn's patterns glowed with the soft gold of deep contentment. "They learned that from you, Captain. When you chose to protect children who weren't your own, you showed them what true family means." As the celebration continued around them, the Queen reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them to this moment. She had begun by searching for her lost daughters. Instead, she had found something much more valuable, a species worthy of friendship, respect, and love. The humans had proven that sometimes the greatest strength was also the greatest kindness, and in doing so they had changed the galaxy forever. Jake Morrison stepped off the transport ship and looked up at the massive towers of Zenith Military Academy. The buildings reached toward the purple sky of Kepler Prime like metal fingers. Alien cadets walked past him in groups, their scales fur, and strange skin colors making Jake feel very ordinary in his simple human uniform. He carried a small bag and wore the nervous smile of a young man far from home. Nobody would guess that inside that bag were weapons that could level a city block. Nobody would think that the scared-looking 19-year-old had led secret missions that saved entire colonies. "Move along, human," growled a voice behind him. Jake turned to see a tall reptilian creature with yellow eyes and sharp teeth. The name tag read, Instructor Vextar. The alien looked down at Jake like he was examining a bug. "Sorry, sir," Jake said, making his voice shake a little. Wow, this place is huge," Vextar snorted. Another weak human. "Why the Academy bothers with your species I will never understand." He walked away, his tail swishing behind him. Jake kept the nervous smile on his face, but inside he was already studying Vextar's movement patterns. The instructor favored his left leg slightly. Old injury, probably from combat. Jake filed the information away for later. The main hall was filled with cadets from dozens of different worlds. Jake recognized most of the species from his years of military service. The tall blue ones were Centaurians, peaceful but strong. The rock-like beings were granite folk, slow but nearly impossible to hurt. The ones that looked like walking wolves were Canari, fierce fighters with pack mentality. "Hey, you look lost," said a friendly voice. Jake turned to see a human girl about his age with brown hair and kind eyes. Her name tag said Lisa Carter. "Yeah, I guess I am," Jake replied. "I'm Jake Morrison from Earth Colony 7. "Lisa Carter from Mars Base," she said with a smile. "First time off-world?" Jake nodded, though he had been to more worlds than most admirals. Everything here is so big and scary, Lisa laughed. Tell me about it. Half these aliens could probably snap us in half without trying. But hey, we humans have to stick together, right? Before Jake could answer, a massive figure blocked their view. The creature stood nearly 8 feet tall with 4 arms and skin like black armor. Its red eyes focused on Jake and Lisa with obvious dislike. Humans, the alien said in a deep voice. I am Zorkath of the Thorian warrior caste. You soft creatures do not belong in a real military academy. Lisa stepped back, but Jake just smiled nervously. We're just here to learn, same as everyone else. Zorkath laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. Learn? You will learn pain when real combat begins. Humans are weak. Your bones break easily. Your skin tears like paper. You have no claws, no armor, no natural weapons. Maybe we'll surprise you, Jake said quietly. The Thorian leaned down until his face was inches from Jake's. The only surprise will be how quickly you break. He straightened up and walked away, followed by a group of other alien cadets who were laughing. Lisa was pale. Maybe coming here was a mistake. No, Jake said, putting a gentle hand on her shoulder. We belong here just as much as they do. Don't let them scare you. Admiral Kane Williams appeared at the front of the hall. He was a tall human with gray hair and sharp eyes. When he looked at Jake, there was the smallest nod that nobody else would notice. Welcome to Zenith Military Academy, Williams announced. You are here because your worlds believe you have potential. Some of you will prove them right. Others will wash out in the first week. The galaxy is not kind to the weak or unprepared. Williams continued his speech about honor and duty, but Jake was watching the other instructors. Several of them kept looking at the human cadets with expressions that seemed almost hungry. Jake made mental notes about each one. After the welcome ceremony, the cadets were divided into training groups. Jake found himself in Group 7 with Lisa, Zorkath, and 15 other beings from various worlds. Their first instructor was a female Centaurian named Kalatar. Today we test your basic combat skills, she announced. You will face simulated opponents in individual combat scenarios. The computer will adjust difficulty based on your performance. One by one, cadets entered the simulation chamber. Most did reasonably well, though a few struggled badly. When Zorkath's turn came, he destroyed his opponent so quickly that the instructor had to reset the system twice to find challenges that lasted more than 30 seconds. Impressive, Kalatar said, as expected from Thorian nobility. Then it was Jake's turn. Inside the simulation chamber, holographic enemies appeared around him. Jake's body wanted to move with deadly precision, to use the combat techniques drilled into him through years of special operations training. Instead, he forced himself to stumble backward, swinging wildly at his attackers. The first hologram knocked him down easily. Jake rolled away clumsily, barely avoiding a second attack. He managed to land a lucky hit on one opponent, then got overwhelmed by the others. The simulation ended with Jake on the ground, breathing hard. Pathetic, Zorkath said when Jake emerged from the chamber. Even for a human, that was embarrassing. Lisa tried to look encouraging. You'll get better with practice. Jake nodded, looking defeated. Inside, he was calculating exactly how he could have eliminated all 6 opponents in under 10 seconds. But that was not why he was here. That evening, Jake lay in his small dorm room and activated a hidden communicator. Admiral Williams' face appeared on the tiny screen. Report, Williams said quietly. Instructors Vextar, Gorthan, and Kelixme all showed unusual interest in human performance today, Jake whispered. They're watching us more closely than they should be. And I intercepted a coded transmission during evening meal. Someone here is definitely communicating with off-world contacts. Keep your cover intact, Williams warned. We need concrete proof of the conspiracy before we can act. Understood. But sir, these human kids, they're really trying their best. If something happens to them because of this mission, your job is to gather intelligence, Colonel, not to play protector. Jake ended the transmission and stared at the ceiling. Through the thin walls, he could hear Lisa practicing combat moves in the next room, trying to improve after her own poor showing in the simulations. He closed his eyes and reminded himself that sometimes the hardest part of being humanity's deadliest weapon was knowing when not to use that power. 3 weeks into training, Jake had perfected the art of looking helpless while gathering crucial intelligence. Every morning he joined Lisa and the other human cadets for breakfast, listening to their worries about keeping up with their alien classmates. Every evening he used hidden devices to intercept communications between certain instructors and unknown contacts. The pattern was becoming clear. Several alien instructors were reporting detailed information about human capabilities to someone off-world, but they were not just observing. They were actively trying to make human cadets fail. During tactical planning exercises, Instructor Vextar would assign impossible scenarios to human students while giving aliens much easier problems. In physical training, Instructor Gorthan would increase gravity settings when humans used the equipment. Small sabotages that looked like accidents but were clearly planned. Jake watched it all happen while pretending to struggle just like the other humans. It was harder than any combat mission he had ever undertaken. "I don't think I can do this anymore," Lisa said one morning. She had dark circles under her eyes from staying up late studying. "Yesterday I spent 6 hours on a tactical problem that Zorkath finished in 20 minutes. Different species have different strengths," Jake said carefully. Maybe the problem was designed for Thorian thinking patterns. Maybe, Lisa said, but she did not sound convinced. Or maybe humans really do not belong here. Jake wanted to tell her that the problems were rigged, that she was actually much smarter than most of the alien cadets. Instead, he just offered to help her study. That afternoon brought advanced combat training. The class gathered in a large arena where Instructor Vextar waited with several training robots. "Today you learn real combat," Vextar announced. "These robots are programmed to fight like actual enemies. Some of you may get hurt. This is good. Pain teaches lessons that safety cannot." Vextar's yellow eyes lingered on the human cadets as he spoke. Jake noticed the instructor's hand resting on a control device that could adjust the robot's aggression levels. Zorkath volunteered to go first. The Thorian faced off against a robot designed to match his size and strength. The fight was impressive but fair. Zorkath won after a few minutes of intense combat. Several other alien cadets took their turns. Each robot seemed perfectly calibrated to provide a challenging but winnable fight. Then Lisa stepped forward. "I volunteer next," she said, trying to sound confident. Vextar smiled, showing his sharp teeth.
"How brave."
"Very well, human." The robot that activated was clearly different from the others. Larger, faster, more aggressive. Jake saw Vextar's thumb move slightly on the control device, and the robot's eyes glowed brighter. Lisa barely dodged the first attack. The robot moved with inhuman speed, its metal fists whistling through the air where her head had been moments before. She tried to use the defensive techniques they had learned, but the robot was too fast. Jake's muscles tensed as he watched. Every instinct screamed at him to intervene. Lisa was going to get seriously hurt, maybe killed, and everyone would call it a training accident. The robot caught Lisa with a glancing blow that sent her spinning. She hit the ground hard and did not get up immediately. The robot advanced for a finishing strike. Jake started to move, then forced himself to stop. Blowing his cover would doom the entire mission. "But Lisa, stop the exercise," shouted a voice. It was Kilatar, the Centaurian instructor. "Medical evaluation required." The robot powered down just before its fist would have connected with Lisa's head. Medical drones swarmed into the arena to check on her. Vextar looked disappointed. The exercise was proceeding normally. "That robot was set to kill level," Kilatar said coldly. "Far above standard training parameters." "A malfunction, perhaps," Vextar replied, but his tone suggested he did not care. Jake helped Lisa to the medical bay. She had a concussion and several bruises, but nothing permanent. As he sat beside her bed, she grabbed his arm. "It was trying to kill me," she whispered. "That robot was actually trying to kill me." "You hit your head pretty hard," Jake said gently. "Maybe you are not thinking clearly." But Lisa's eyes were sharp and focused. "No, Jake, I know what I saw. And this is not the first suspicious accident involving human cadets." Jake realized that Lisa was much more observant than he had given her credit for. "What do you mean?" "The gravity settings in the gym that mysteriously increase when humans work out. The tactical problems that seem designed to make us look stupid. The way certain instructors watch us like we are specimens in a lab." She was right about everything, but Jake could not admit it. "Maybe you are being paranoid." Lisa stared at him for a long moment. "Maybe. Or maybe there is something going on here that we do not understand." That night, Jake intercepted another coded transmission from Vextar. This one was different. Instead of just reporting on human capabilities, the instructor was requesting permission for enhanced testing protocols. The response came an hour later. Approved. Increase pressure gradually. We need to know their breaking point. Jake felt a cold anger building in his chest. These aliens were not just prejudiced against humans. They were actively trying to hurt them, maybe even kill them, all while calling it training. He activated his communicator to contact Admiral Williams, but before the connection could establish, he heard voices in the hallway outside his room. The human female is becoming suspicious, said Vextar's voice. Perhaps we should accelerate the timeline. Not yet, replied another voice that Jake recognized as Instructor Gorthon. The Coalition wants complete data on human limitations. A few more weeks of testing should be sufficient. And if they discover our true purpose, then we eliminate the witnesses and blame it on training accidents. The Academy has full authority to use lethal force if cadets become security risks. Jake pressed himself against the wall as the footsteps moved away. His hands were shaking, not from fear but from rage. These aliens were planning to murder human cadets in the name of research. He finally got through to Admiral Williams and reported everything he had learned. We need more proof, Williams said after a long pause. Intercepted conversations are not enough to bring charges against Academy instructors. Sir, they are talking about killing these kids. I understand your concern, Colonel, but we need evidence that will hold up in interspecies court. Keep gathering intelligence, and if they accelerate their timeline, Williams was quiet for a moment. Use your best judgment, but remember, exposing yourself too early could doom thousands of humans across the galaxy. Jake ended the transmission and lay back on his narrow bed. Outside his window, alien stars shone down on a world that was supposed to represent unity between species. Instead, it was becoming a hunting ground. He thought about Lisa, recovering from her training accident in the medical bay. He thought about the other human cadets, working so hard to prove themselves worthy while their instructors plotted against them. Jake Morrison had been trained to be humanity's deadliest weapon. Tomorrow he might have to decide whether to remain hidden or to remind the galaxy why humans were feared across the stars. The emergency alarm woke Jake at 300 hours. Red lights flashed in the dormitory corridors as cadets stumbled from their rooms in confusion. Instructor Vextar's voice echoed through the communication system. All cadets report to the main assembly hall immediately. This is a combat readiness drill. You have 5 minutes. Jake dressed quickly, but not before checking the hidden weapons concealed in his gear. Something felt wrong about this drill. Real emergencies did not happen at convenient training hours. In the hallway, he found Lisa and several other human cadets looking nervous and tired. What do you think this is about? Lisa asked. Probably just testing how fast we can respond, Jake replied, but his eyes were scanning for threats. The alien cadets seemed unusually alert for creatures awakened in the middle of the night. The assembly hall was dark except for emergency lighting. Instructor Vextar stood at the front with several other instructors that Jake had identified as part of the conspiracy. Admiral Williams was nowhere to be seen. Tonight you face your final examination, Vextar announced. A hostile force has infiltrated Academy grounds. Your mission is to locate and neutralize the threat. This is not a simulation. The weapons are real. The danger is real. Jake felt his blood go cold. The other cadets around him looked excited at the prospect of real combat, but Jake knew better. This was the accelerated timeline Vexitar had mentioned. They were planning to eliminate the human cadets under the cover of a training exercise. You will be divided into mixed species teams, Vextar continued. Work together to complete your mission. Remember, in real combat, there are no second chances. As teams were announced, Jake noticed a pattern. Human cadets were being paired with aliens who had shown the most hostility toward their species. Lisa found herself teamed with Zorkath and 2 other aggressive aliens. Jake's team included 3 Centaurians who had been friendly during training. Either they were not part of the conspiracy, or they were much better actors than the others. Each team received basic weapons and communication equipment before being sent to different sections of the Academy. Jake's team was assigned to the lower levels, while Lisa's team headed toward the outer perimeter. Stay close and watch each other's backs, Jake told his Centaurian teammates. Something does not feel right about this exercise. Kalatar, the lead Centaurian, nodded. I have been thinking the same thing. Why conduct such a drill without warning? And where is Admiral Williams? They moved through the darkened corridors carefully. Jake's enhanced senses, trained through years of special operations, detected movement ahead long before his teammates noticed anything. "Contact," he whispered, pointing toward a side passage. 3 figures in black armor emerged from the shadows. They wore no identification markings, and their weapons were definitely not training gear. These were real mercenaries, not Academy security. Jake's team took cover behind a concrete barrier. The Centaurians began returning fire with their training weapons, but the energy blasts barely scratched the mercenaries' armor. "Our weapons are not effective," Kelatar said urgently. "We need to retreat." "Wait," Jake said. He studied the mercenaries' movement patterns and equipment loadouts. "Their armor has weak points at the joints. If we can flank them from 2 directions—" "You are just a cadet," one of the Centaurians protested. "We should follow standard retreat protocols." Jake looked at his teammates and made a decision that would change everything. "I am not just a cadet." He moved before the others could stop him, rolling across the open corridor with fluid precision. The mercenaries turned to track him, exposing their flanks to the Centaurians' position. Jake came up behind partial cover and fired his training weapon at exactly the right angle to penetrate a joint in the lead mercenary's armor. The shot should not have been powerful enough to do serious damage, but Jake had modified the power setting using techniques that were definitely not taught in basic training. The mercenary dropped. The second mercenary spun toward Jake, but Jake was already moving again. He slid under the alien's line of fire and struck with precise hand-to-hand combat moves that disabled his opponent in seconds. The third mercenary tried to run, but Kelatar's team had flanked him according to Jake's plan. Within minutes, all 3 hostiles were down. "How did you—" Kelatar started to ask. "Lucky shots," Jake said quickly. "Adrenaline makes you do crazy things." But the Centaurian's eyes were suspicious now. Those were not lucky shots. Those were professional military tactics. Before Jake could respond, his communication device crackled with Lisa's panicked voice. "Jake, help us. Our team leader is trying to kill us." Jake grabbed the communicator. "Lisa, where are you?" "Section 7, near the outer airlock." "Zorkath just shot Ben and Amy. He says humans are enemies of the state and this is an execution." Jake started running toward Section 7, leaving his confused teammates behind. As he ran, he activated hidden systems in his equipment. No more pretending. No more cover. He reached Section 7 to find Lisa pinned down behind an overturned table, while Zorkath and his alien teammates advanced on her position. 2 human cadets lay motionless on the floor. "Come out, little human," Zorkath called. "Accept your fate with dignity." "Her only fate is survival," Jake said from the doorway. Zorkath turned, surprised. "The weak human boy. Did you come to die with your friend?" Jake stepped into the light and Lisa gasped. His posture was completely different now. The nervous, clumsy cadet was gone, replaced by something predatory and dangerous. "I came to teach you why humans are feared across the galaxy," Jake said quietly. Zorkath laughed. "Feared? You soft creatures could not harm a—" The Thorian never finished his sentence. Jake moved with inhuman speed, covering the distance between them in a blur of motion. His first strike shattered Zorkath's weapon. His second broke the alien's arm. His third put the massive warrior on the ground unconscious. The other alien cadets tried to react, but Jake was already among them. Years of special operations training exploded into action. Within 30 seconds, all of Lisa's attackers were down. Lisa stared at Jake in shock. "What? Who are you?" "Someone who should have dropped this act a long time ago," Jake replied, helping her to her feet. Over the Academy communication system, Instructor Vextar's voice echoed with increasing panic. "All teams report status immediately. We have hostile contacts throughout the facility." Jake looked at Lisa, then at the unconscious aliens around them. "The exercise is not over. There are real enemies here, and they have been planning this for weeks. But how do you know so much about—" "Because I am not really a cadet," Jake said. "I am Colonel Jake Morrison, Human Colonial Defense Force. And tonight these conspirators are going to learn why humanity earned its place among the stars." Lisa's eyes went wide. "You are military?" "Real military. The most classified kind," Jake admitted. "And right now we need to save the other human cadets before this fake drill becomes a real massacre." He handed Lisa a proper weapon from his concealed arsenal. "Stay close and do exactly what I say. It is time to show these aliens what humans can really do when we stop pretending to be harmless." Outside, explosions began echoing through the Academy halls. The real battle was just beginning. 3 months after the night that changed everything, Colonel Jake Morrison stood before a packed auditorium at Zenith Military Academy. The audience included cadets, instructors, and military representatives from dozens of worlds. But this time, nobody was pretending to be something they were not. Jake wore his proper uniform now, with ribbons and medals that told the story of humanity's hidden war against forces that wanted to keep them weak. Admiral Williams sat in the front row, finally free to acknowledge his role in the operation that had exposed the Hegemony Coalition's conspiracy. When I first arrived at this academy, Jake began, I was told to observe and report. My mission was to determine whether other species could accept humanity as an equal partner in galactic affairs. In the third row, Lisa Carter sat with the other human cadets who had survived the conspiracy. She still looked amazed when she watched Jake speak with the confidence of a career military officer. What I discovered was that some species feared humanity so much that they were willing to murder students to prevent us from reaching our potential, but I also discovered something else. Jake gestured toward a section where Kalatar and several other non-human instructors sat. I learned that fear and prejudice are not universal. Some of you risked your lives to protect human students even when you did not fully understand what was happening. The Centaurian instructor nodded solemnly. Since the conspiracy's exposure, she had become one of the strongest advocates for human inclusion in galactic military affairs. The Hegemony Coalition based their plans on a fundamental misunderstanding of human nature, Jake continued. They thought our strength came from our weapons, our tactics, or our individual abilities. But they missed the most important thing about humanity. He paused and looked directly at Lisa. Our strength comes from our ability to make others stronger. We do not just build better weapons. We share them. We do not just develop better tactics. We teach them. We do not just become better soldiers. We help others become better soldiers too. A murmur ran through the alien audience. This was not what most of them expected to hear from humanity's deadliest weapon. During my time as a fake cadet, I watched Lisa Carter and the other humans struggle with training designed to make them fail, but they never gave up. They helped each other study. They shared encouragement when instructors tried to break their spirits. They showed the same qualities that make human military units effective: loyalty, adaptability, and the refusal to leave anyone behind. Jake activated a holographic display showing Academy statistics. Since the conspiracy was exposed and training standards were made fair, human cadets have not dominated the rankings. They have improved everyone's performance. Mixed species teams with human members score 30% higher than all alien teams. Zorkath, the Thorian warrior who had once bullied human cadets, stood up from his seat. His arm was still in a medical brace from their final confrontation, but his voice was respectful now. I request permission to speak, he said formally. Jake nodded. Granted. I was taught that strength meant individual dominance, Zorkath said. That warriors proved themselves by defeating others. But this human, he gestured toward Jake. He could have killed me easily that night. Instead, he chose to disable me without permanent harm. Later, when I was interrogated about my role in the conspiracy, he testified that I was manipulated rather than willing accomplice. The Thorian's red eyes swept the audience. Humans do not just possess strength. They choose how to use it. That is what makes them dangerous to those who abuse power, and valuable to those who seek justice. When Zorkath sat down, several other alien cadets stood to share similar stories. The picture that emerged was of humans as natural leaders who elevated others rather than dominating them. Admiral Williams took the podium next. The investigation into the Hegemony Coalition has revealed the scope of their fear. They were not just planning to eliminate human cadets. They intended to prevent humanity from forming military alliances with any other species. The audience stirred uncomfortably. The implications were staggering. They understood something that we are only beginning to appreciate ourselves, Williams continued. Human military doctrine is not based on the superiority of human soldiers. It is based on making every soldier in our forces more effective, regardless of species. Williams activated another display showing military engagement statistics. In every conflict where humans have served alongside alien forces, casualty rates dropped significantly. Not because humans did all the fighting, but because human tactics, technology, and leadership improved everyone's survival rates. Jake returned to the podium for his closing remarks. The Academy will continue under new leadership with new policies and a new mission. Instead of training individual warriors, we will train integrated forces that combine the best capabilities of all species. He looked out at the mixed audience of humans and aliens, enemies and friends, students and teachers. The Hegemony Coalition was right about one thing. Humans are dangerous. We are dangerous to anyone who thinks military strength comes from keeping others weak. We are dangerous to anyone who believes that power should be hoarded rather than shared. Lisa raised her hand and Jake called on her. What about you, Colonel? Will you stay to help with this new mission? Jake smiled, and for the first time since revealing his identity, it looked like the same warm expression he had worn as a fake cadet. I have been offered a new assignment. Admiral Williams wants me to establish similar integration programs at military academies across the galaxy, and I have accepted a position as his executive officer, Williams added. It seems the galaxy needs more humans willing to teach rather than conquer. After the ceremony, Jake walked through the academy grounds one final time. The buildings looked the same, but everything else had changed. Human and alien cadets trained together as equals. Instructors focused on bringing out each student's potential, rather than weeding out the weak. Lisa found him near the transport landing where his fake journey had begun months earlier. Are you really leaving tomorrow? New academy, new mission, Jake confirmed. But the same goal, proving that humans belong in this galaxy as partners, not conquerors. I'm going to miss having humanity's deadliest weapon as my study partner, Lisa said with a grin. Jake laughed. You know what I learned during this mission? The deadliest weapons are not the ones that destroy enemies. They are the ones that turn enemies into allies. He looked up at the alien stars that no longer seemed quite so foreign. Besides, I was never really humanity's deadliest weapon. What do you mean? The deadliest weapon humanity possesses is not any individual soldier or any piece of technology, Jake explained. It is our ability to look at a galaxy full of different species and see potential friends instead of inevitable enemies. Lisa nodded thoughtfully. That is why the Coalition was so afraid of us. Exactly. They built their power on the assumption that different species could never truly cooperate. Humans proved that assumption wrong just by existing. As Jake's transport lifted off the next morning, he could see mixed species teams of cadets training together in the academy courtyards below. The sight filled him with a satisfaction that no military victory had ever provided. Somewhere in the galaxy, other academies were waiting for the human touch that would transform competition into cooperation, fear into understanding, and weapons of war into tools of peace. Colonel Jake Morrison, humanity's deadliest weapon in disguise, was heading out to change the galaxy. One academy at a time, and the galaxy would never be the same.